It's spooky season. It's a time for ghosts and ghouls and goblins, for monsters and aliens, for witches and demons. And Final Fantasy has them all. More known for a sense of adventure and hope, the series has never been shy about stepping into genres of horror and thriller when the moment calls for it. My name is Drew Kreisman. I am one half of the Final Fantasy Weekly podcast, and these are my picks for the top 10 spookiest moments in Final Fantasy history. A few honorable mentions. I'm sure there's a bunch of stuff in Final Fantasy XIV, I just haven't played it enough. I also wanted to give a shout out to the body swap scene in Chrono Cross, which is just a big spoiler I didn't want to get into, but it always freaks me out. Alright, number 10. The Ship Graveyard from Final Fantasy V. A lot can be said just in the name of a place. Perhaps the first, but certainly not the last graveyard for symbolic inanimate objects of the franchise, Final Fantasy V's Ship Graveyard carries a lot of the familiar elements you'll see on this list. A heavy atmosphere, spine-tingling music, wisps of mist, and plenty of things that go bump in the night. There's no Captain Barbossa to be found, but there are plenty of skeleton pirates, strange and dangerous creatures, and the ever-present seductions of the Siren. Number 9. The Omega Ruins of Final Fantasy X. 700 years ago, Lulu tells us, a warrior named Omega defied the god of Spira, Yevon, and went deep into hiding in these caves where he could be far from the light. Yeah, okay, but at first this place doesn't seem all that scary. Some dark tunnels through some caves, but nothing we haven't seen before, right? But the deeper we delve, the stranger things get. The fiends become more intimidating and the landscapes more alien. There's not a whole lot here that is truly terrifying, but these ruins are giving me the heebie-jeebies. Number 8. Cuchulainn reveals himself from Final Fantasy Tactics. Arazlam Durai, the historian, lures you into the story of the War of the Lions with promises of political intrigue and war. And the very grounded story largely focuses on these elements for its first act, right up until, without much warning, we suddenly switch genres to demonic body horror. A corrupt member of the church unleashes the power of a zodiac stone, transforming himself into Cuchulainn the Impure, a bulging creature of hollow eyes who appears sewn together haphazardly from the flesh of others. It's shocking and frightening, more than a little bit disturbing. Number 7. The NECROHOL of NABUDIS from Final Fantasy XII. Speaking of places that unsettle you just by stepping foot in them, let us head off to the land of Ivalice, to the region of Nabradia, and to the NECROHOL of NABUDIS. The Nethicite's mist has corrupted the life out of this place, Bosch warns us, which leaves only the undead. They roam the empty halls of their forgotten city, waiting in the dark for some unsuspecting traveler to come wandering by in hopes of treasure. But you better be special, adventurer, if you want the ancient riches of the NECROHOL, for none who enter return. Number 6. The Phantom Forest and Train of Final Fantasy VI. Somewhere deep in the haunted forest lies a set of train tracks sitting alone in the mist. After wandering through the woods down a path that mysteriously put us back where we started, we eventually find the tracks and, much to our surprise, a seemingly abandoned train of peculiar decor. Out of curiosity, we take a look inside before our memories are flooded with the familiar stories of a phantom train taking departed souls to the other side. We run to deboard, but the door is locked. The train is moving. No escape. Nowhere to run. Nowhere to hide. Quick, make for the front of the train to barter for our souls. Number 5. Dungeons and Goblins, Final Fantasy XV. There are some more story-based and spoilery moments from late in the game that I could have chosen, but had to go with my own experience of not being at all ready when I went dungeon crawling in the caves of Final Fantasy XV and a goblin jumped out and almost ate my face. The entire vibe of these segments, which is echoed more globally later, give off a uniquely disquieting vibe. The banter of the boys, especially Prompto, drives it home even deeper, allowing us to put ourselves in the terrified shoes of the characters. I was just not ready for a jump scare in my Final Fantasy, and they very much got me. Number 4, The Train Graveyard from Final Fantasy VII Remake. If I had to go through this place, I'd be hanging on to Cloud 2. It's got all the things that make your hair stand on end, but this scene also disarms you with a deep melancholy. Minor spoilers, but these ghosts aren't just faceless beings. We learn some of their history, and the haunting becomes personal. And Aerith getting lost for a second and having a flashback reminds us all of those moments in childhood when we felt small, and a big world felt scary. It has that feeling of when you were a kid alone in the dark and you would race to the light switch, you know, just in case. Number 3, A Parade of Witches, Final Fantasy VIII. Where some Final Fantasy games dip their toes in the pools of horror, Final Fantasy VIII enjoys diving in headfirst. More minor spoilers, but later into the story, in the going to space section of the game, Squall and Rinoa actually seem to wander into Ridley Scott's Alien, complete with xenomorphs and everything. It's an extended sequence of tension and definitely deserves a mention, but I had to go with the Parade of Witches from the end of Disc 1. It's remarkably disturbing to see the sorceress Edea dripping with evil overtones, riding through a sea of frolicking faces hidden behind demented masks and bizarre dancing. The thriller vibes are enhanced by anxiety for our heroes trying to execute a plan that feels doomed to fail. I could say something like this for every entry on every list, but it is still worth pointing out that Nobuo Uematsu's score for this section will send chills down your spine all by itself. Number 2, The Trail of Blood from Final Fantasy VII. The Trail of Blood from Final Fantasy VII is exactly what it sounds like. Our characters awake in an industrial nightmare, with both man and machine mangled and left discriminately strewn about the darkened halls of Shinra Tower. Something was clearly dragged bleeding across the floor, invoking images of the disembodied torso of the alien Genova. Everyone and everything in sight is dead. As the alarm lights flash, we follow the trail to discover yet another body, highlighted by a lightning strike, impaled on his own desk. I'd be unsettled. Once again, the music is integral, even sharing a name with the scene, which is, again, The Trail of Blood. And number 1, The Dancing Calcabrina of Final Fantasy IV. Is there anything creepier than a murderous doll? How about a bunch of them that eventually form one giant, horrifying murderous doll? Maybe Final Fantasy's first foray into fear stands to me as still their very best. The Dancing Calcabrina have endured through the years, showing up in a few other entries in the franchise, always accompanied by the tormented tones of their unforgettable theme music. On its face, and without need of much explanation or context, this is just creepy. It's Chucky meets Frankenstein. I don't know about you, but the Calcabrina have been haunting my nightmares since 1994. Thank you for watching and listening during this spooky season. Thank you to editor Chris DeNuno for putting this one together, and a big appreciation to Night of the Round and Final Fantasy Piano Music for their contributions. Don't forget to check out the links down below. While you're doing that, you can also give this video a like and a share, and the channel a subscribe. It really does help everybody out. And if you're interested in more Final Fantasy content, please check out patreon.com/ffweekly, and for more nerdy content of all varieties, including Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, and more, check out patreon.com/dcproductions.